can hear you better. If I was on camera, I literally jumped out of my skin. That scared the shit out of me.
Sorry.
That scared that scared the absolute shit out of me. Oh,
Well,
Well,
we're sorry about that. We try not to make a habit about scaring our guests.
no, not really. But it just popped in my head. It's like, well, wait a minute. We're hearing it coming through the computer instead of our headphones. So then I was like, well, let me see if it's going through that microphone instead. So I do apologize. Welcome to the show. We were talking about how we all have somebody in our life that we do. We know that there's something, they've gone through depression. Me and my siblings grew up with a mom who went through depression, and I've gone through, I have my times of year where my husband's like, are you okay? And it's like, yeah, I'm okay. I just get stuck in my head sometimes.
yeah. For me, the depression comes and goes in waves. I totally get that 100%. My depression. I was diagnosed with clinical depression when I was 13, so I was pretty young when I first started showing signs of depression, but didn't get diagnosed officially till I was 14. But it was evident that I had it at 13. It could have been possible that I had it earlier in my lifetime, but it just wasn't as severe. But I remember I was in 8th grade, and my school was just like a prison. My middle school was an absolute prison. If you just would have put orange suits on, you couldn't tell the difference.
Right.
And my classmates were just really rude, and they were just really hateful towards me, and they just really did not care at all about what was going on, how I was. So they bullied me and all that. And I was dealing with some personal stuff at home as well. My grandmother had gotten sick with Alzheimer's and dementia, and her health declined very significantly. And she kind of was fine one morning, and then that evening she was just a completely different person. And all that kind of just built up and really just got me down and really took me out. I was
That's
failing in
at 13. A lot.
Yeah. It was a lot at 13, and I kind of just spiraled down into a very bad depression state. I almost committed suicide at one point, and was very close to just ending it all. And then I had a really bad porn addiction at the time as well. And of course, my mom caught me watching it because I was smart and watched it in the middle of the day. And I just for 2 hours sat here at my desk and told her everything that was going on. Just saying everything about home, everything at school. And she wasn't mad. She looked at me and she said, "We're going to make you a doctor's appointment, and we're going to the doctor soon. I mean, ASAP." And after I got finally the answer I was looking for of what was going on, it was kind of treating it. And then really up until now, it's just been a constant. I have depression. It goes away for a while, comes back, goes away. That's kind of just how my clinical depression is. I can't really predict it either. It just kind of comes when it wants to and goes when it wants. So there's really no.
But I don't think it's something common that doctors and parents think about in their children. You know what I mean? The young children. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things people think about more in older people.
Yeah. And this was like 2016. So it was 2015, 2016. This wasn't something that a lot of my friends talked about. They never really opened up. So I was very much just drawn into it and had no one to really rely on except my mom at the time.
Right.
She was the only one that had dealt with depression that I could talk to and she'd understand. Everyone else that I was around never really openly said, "Oh, by the way, I have depression, I have a mental health disorder." No one in my immediate circle had that. So I was really lost at who I could really look to and talk to about it. It just was not as talked about even 10 years ago as I would think it is now. I think it's a little bit more talked about now than compared to maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I think
True.
people
I
have.
still think though there's still it's still hard for people to come out and say, I have depression, and I still think there's stigmatism to it.
Yeah, like a negative connotation that goes along with some of those words, like depression, mental illness, and right away, I mean, I think a lot of people go to the worst end of that. You know what I mean? Like, oh my gosh, like these people are so lost. How do you actually get them to a point where they can, be functional? And I could see how you could be, treated the way you were treated, especially at your age, because that's not something that you typically expect from a teenager.
Right. It was. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I was just gonna. I love how they've gotten. I love how you got your questions here. It kind of makes it easy for us. So I did see the one thing here is like, I would imagine that COVID must have been pretty difficult to get through.
Yeah, 2020 for me was just a full year of the bullshit academy. It was just like, anything that could happen to me would happen to me that was just tragic. I had a pet that had to be put to sleep in February. I actually got diagnosed with anxiety during that year, and I ended up getting COVID close to the end of 2020. So I basically was just like, what have I done to deserve this kind of pain? Like, what? Just name it out, what I've done, and I'll forgive.
I think we've all at some point have been like, okay, what did I do? What did I do to deserve today?
But that was like the whole year. So earlier that year, I was a senior in high school. I started having these really bad sick spells in the middle of the night, early in the morning, before I would go to class or when I was trying to go to sleep. And we thought it was typical, oh, he's got a flu, he's got some kind of stomach bug. We thought it was a virus going around because it was around flu season. So it wasn't like, oh, shocking that I had these symptoms. It was kind of along the same lines. But it kind of lasted very long term. It really didn't want to go away. It just was adamant of wanting to persistently stay there. And so we went to the doctor, and the doctor was kind of baffled, which is something that you never really want to have a doctor say is, I don't know what's wrong with you, because it's right. Oh, I have something that's not medically proven. I don't have something that has been medically diagnosed yet. I thought, great. I was always in that minority, though, of like, anything that was common would not happen to me. So if I had like, oh, I could like break my arm just hitting it against a rock, when most people could probably fall and break bones sliding down. If I accidentally hit my arm up against a rock, I'd break it. And it was just like, my nose. I also suffer from really bad nosebleeds, and most people, when they have nosebleeds, it kind of starts up at the top of your nose. Well, for me, it comes out the bottom of the nose. So I just love being in the minority. I just love being the 0.1%.
You're just really an enigma, aren't you?
That's what I like to. That was classy. I just say I'm just odd. I was always an enigma. So anything that would be common would not happen with me. I'd have the odd. And so we went to the doctor, and he ran some tests and blood work, and everything came back fine. Nothing was screened out that was like a code red, any alarm was going off. And he started asking me questions. He said, how are you doing at school? And I said, well, I'm doing pretty well, minus one class that's a little hard, but I have a B in it and I have all A's in other classes. And he said, are you being bullied at all? How's kind of social life at school been going? And I said, it's been going pretty well. So he told me that, and he told me, was it kind of like, so when you get these sick spells, is it just like a nausea? And I said, well, it starts out as nausea to the point where I do throw up. And he was like, huh. He said, that's the part that's really odd, because you don't have a fever, you don't have chills, you don't have any kind of fluid bodies in your system or any virus that's been detected. He said, that's really odd just for you to be sick for no reason. He said, let's try to test something out. Let's have you stay out of school for a week and see if there's something mentally going on to where maybe there is something at school that you're not aware of that's causing it. And I'll still do my research and look into it, and we'll do a week checkup. And I said, okay. So I stayed out of school that whole week, told this parent, we had to come up with an excuse, which my doctor kind of took care of. I was on kind of a medical leave a little bit for just, I was not feeling good. They just said I was sick with, I guess, the flu. And I came back the next week and didn't have any nausea spells. And he said, I did some more research and I think you have anxiety. Well, at that point, I had taken like a home ec, and I had taken a medical class and had just done anatomy. So I knew what anxiety was at that point. And most people said anxiety would stem from shortness of breath, you have tightness in your chest, you can't breathe and all that. That's what I thought anxiety was. And I said, well, I'm not experiencing that. And he said, that's how most people are. But he said in rare cases, in some cases, nausea can be a form of anxiety. I said, here's the 1% again. Let me be the 1.1%. I said, okay. So, I told him, I said, well, what's the next steps? What do I do? And he said, well, honestly, there's medicine that we can put you on. We can put you on anything, really. We can do tests to see if that's what actually is causing it. But he was certain. I asked him, I said, do you recommend that I get homeschooled? Just do homeschooling from comfort of my home to where I don't have to go anywhere? I can just stay at home. And he said, honestly, if that's going to stop this, yeah, we'll do that. So we had the plan of going to my counselor and saying, look, and my doctor was really good at the time. He said, if I need to come by the school and be an advocate for you, if I need to write out a reasoning why, I will. If they have questions, I can go there and answer them for you. It'd be like I'm putting him on a special thing. He's got something personal going on. But luckily, COVID happened where we didn't have to go through with that. But I had a lot of damage from the anxiety as well. I lost 20 pounds because constantly vomiting, I lose weight. I always had trouble with my weight. And when I'm sick, my weight just drops tremendously fast. And over a month period, lost 20 pounds. All the strength that I had in my arms and legs were completely gone. If I was going down steps, my legs would shake to where I felt like I was going to fall down the steps. I had to hold onto the railing for a while. I had lost all the strength in my hands to where I couldn't really open up any kind of bottle because the skin on my hand would peel back and cause peeling skin. My left arm completely has changed where if I put my arm at a very certain angle or have it at a certain angle, it shakes very rapidly and very hard to where it's just I can't really use my left arm really much at all, which before then I didn't really have a lot of. I'm right-handed, so of course I don't have a lot of strength in my left arm, left hand, but this kind of just further declined the strength in it. And my anxiety was just off the roof. Anywhere I went, whether it was the grocery store, whether it was to a friend's house, a pet store, anything that I'd been to all my life made me to have a anxiety attack. It was just such a damaging thing. I got put on Ensure, had to drink one of those a day to help gain the weight back. I had to be put on severe medication and had to be put on much medicine to help kind of control my stomach and kind of control my digestive system a lot. I had trouble going to the
A
bathroom.
lot of people realize like anxiety, what it does to your system. It does. I mean, it's pretty powerful emotion.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff that I was going through was not even from anxiety lessons I've learned. I mean, it about tore me apart. I almost ended up in the hospital at one point because it got so bad. I think if we didn't go when I did, I think I would have ended up in the hospital. And it was really bad. But of course, during this whole time, no one from my school life and all my friends never checked on me once, never said, hey, why are you out so much? What's going on? Never really gave two shits about what was going on. So I really had only the support I had was my parents at the time. The people that were in my household was my support system. Everyone else outside did not care. They never knew what was going on until about a year or two later. I told them what was going on. And of course, they started doing the fake, oh, I'm so sorry, and gave the fake sympathy that I knew was just not genuine. It was completely bullshit. It was not the common typical apology. I said, if this would have happened like a month or two after I got diagnosed, I would probably take it more sincere. But I personally do not feel like this is real sympathetic. I don't feel any kind of way towards that. So every time that they said something, I was like, okay.
I have to say, I do another podcast, and I posted an episode this morning, and it's what you're saying is striking with me a lot because I went to school in a small country school, and you're talking back in the 80s, and growing up as a gay teenager, it was very, very difficult, and my mom got called into school one time because I was missing so many days and so many classes because I would same thing. My anxiety would be through the roof. Like it was like living in terror every day, and I can't tell you how many times I went to the nurse's office and, my temperature would be like 102 and they would call my parents, and hearing your story just makes me realize that it was probably just that, that anxiety was just, revving up my body and causing that reaction.
Yeah, and even telling it now to other people, they get it's real graphic how I share it. I understand it's graphic. I hate how graphic it is because I know people don't like hearing the sides of it, but I don't want people to think that what I went through was not... It was hard. It was hard. It was not easy at all. It was something that I had pretty much for 2 years had to deal with because none of the medicine I really got on was helping and working, and nothing was just going. So I was like, I don't know how much longer I can deal with this kind of feeling. And it about killed me. It honestly about killed me, and I hated that I didn't really have any of the support growing up from my classmates too. And, maybe they didn't know what it was at the time, but I still wish I kind of had that support. I have told people, and I've not exaggerated, that I think if something would have happened to me or anything, they would have popped champagne. 100% would have done that. They would pop champagne and celebrate that I was gone. And
but these are people that, I understand that because these are people you spend 12 years of school together, and you would think after 12 years there'd be some form of sympathy.
Yeah.
Or just a connection with you in general. I mean, is that how it was in your school, Noah? I mean, like, do you live in an area where like your school was like you had a close knit community type of thing where your neighbors, like these are your neighbors that are, the same kids in your class from like kindergarten through, your high school years? I mean, is it like that where you grew up or not? Did you not
For
have
me,
those? Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
For me, I'm kind of like I live in a very small country farm town too. So I mean, it was like everyone knew one another. Everyone knew who everyone was. They had close knit kind of societal groups. Like it was more like, okay, here's the cool kids, here's the band kids, here's the people that tend to like to crack up and not care about word, the jocks, the popular kids and all this stuff. There was those groups. But with this school group, I didn't fit in any of those categories. They didn't want to accept me for what it is. And I know they'll probably say that's so not true, but honestly it is, because they just never... I was just in my own league. I was in my own bubble. I just kind of had to talk to them because it was more of a I had to and was forced to talk to them. Ever since I graduated, not a single one of them have ever reached out to me on anything. I actually had one person just the other day, though, message me, but I was like, you hadn't talked to me in 3 years. Why are you talking to me now? It was one of those things of, I just don't find it genuine. So I kind of just heart the message. I didn't reply back. And it was, I know people might think that's shitty of me, but how they've treated me, I was like, no. It wasn't until...
No, not at all. And that's what I was trying to get at here, because, you would think that there would be some kind of a connection if you're in like a close knit, an area like that, like where you would have, if they're, like you said, they're not calling you, they're not talking to you. Why are you out so much? What's going on, buddy? Like it just seems that's just a crazy situation,
Like I
they
said,
don't.
Like I said, my mom got called in because I was missing. I think it was like 8th grade. I had missed so many days that the principal actually called her in, and she was like shocked. She was like, "What do you mean? You get on the bus every day?" She didn't know that I was not getting on the bus, and I was going in like in the shed and hiding out for the whole day. And sneak back on when the bus showed up, because and a lot of it were gym days. I had such fear and anxiety over gym days because our father was a non-participant father, so I didn't know how to play football and baseball, and I was too shy and afraid to ask anybody, like, well, how do you do this?
Right.
Yeah.
It feels so like isolated and just alone in general and all of that, Noah. That's really an awful situation.
Yeah, I kind of see it as they've missed out a lot, because I think out of everyone in the class, I've become the most successful one out of everyone, I think, which is it's kind of like karma coming for them.
Absolutely. And I love that.
It's so funny because some of them went to college and graduated, but after they go to college and after they graduate, I've not really heard anything that they do, which for granted, they don't do kind of the work that I do. They say in the medical field, they might have gone into some business to where they don't share their life on the internet. Well, for me, I host 3 podcasts. I've done 300 interviews. I've been on 20 or 30 podcasts. So my life's pretty much out there where they can hear it and everything. So I'm pretty much out there to where they'll see me, and I post it all on social media. And I think that they kind of they're just shocked of how well because the whole point of my podcast was, kind of a way for me to finally be like, I'm not staying silent no more. Y'all gonna hear it whether you like it or not. And I actually did make a whole 2.5-hour episode on my classmates where I did share my honest opinion about each one of them. And that was probably the most times I've ever gotten a message from them because they were worried about if I had talked bad about them or had talked good things about them. And of course, I never said, yes, I talked bad about you. No, I didn't talk good about you. I said, just listen to it and see if you can figure it out, which, it's been funny because it's kind of screwed up to say, but a lot of them have been busy getting married and pumping out babies, and I've been kind of busy working on myself and working on getting a career going. So it's been kind of because that's all I ever see from them is like they get married and they have a baby. I'm just like, y'all are too busy in the bedroom. Y'all are too busy putting y'all's life out there into the world.
You can have babies and a career too.
Well, some of them did go to college, so
it's not a one or.
Yeah, but let's talk about your career now, because you have a degree in journalism, and you're actively pursuing that career, correct?
Yeah, I kind of would like to see it. Podcasting wasn't really where I thought that my profession would be put to use in it, but it actually has sort of worked out. I went into journalism kind of early. My school, of course, when I went to high school, they were real forceful about picking a career so that when I signed up, it was easy going. So they were forceful about trying to pick a thing. Well, I wasn't really for sure or really adamant about what I wanted to do. I was kind of between a doctor, veterinarian. I was typical standard, what would make the most money type jobs is kind of where I was thinking. But I thought, I don't know if I want to do that full time. And I was a huge talk show person. I liked watching talk shows on TV, and I always would watch them on YouTube, like Fallon and Kimmel and all the late night hosts. And I kind of one day thought, that's kind of what I want to do. That seems like a fun thing to do. That seems like a fun career to be in, just being able to not even talk to celebrities, but, be able to talk to others and just have a good conversation with people. And I thought it was just a fun job. But I had really no clue what field of major do you go in? Do you go into broadcasting? Do you go into communications, journalism? It was like, I don't know what field. And a lot of things said journalism. And I signed up with journalism, never changed my major once. And then after I graduated, I started having doubts with it because job hunting in the journalism field is very tough. That's something that a lot of people don't really talk and share about. All the TV stations and news stations that I wanted to participate in wanted you to have two plus years of experience. Well,
if you don't work it.
Yeah.
So being a recent college graduate, most college students maybe would have 1 year, maybe 2 years if you're lucky. So I was very much put into a very difficult place at the time after I graduated of trying to find in any kind of form. It was radio, TV, working behind the scenes at like newspaper, magazine, just anything that would have like a journalism aspect to it. I tried to pursue and look into, and it was just really a roadblock and dead end. Well, I had an interest in podcasting since 2021. I had it at that point for 2 or 3 years. And I had a guy that came to one of my journalism classes and shared that he was opening up a podcasting class here the next fall, that if you were interested in maybe wanting to sign up and maybe take the class and would like to learn more about podcasting, feel free to talk to your advisor to get signed up. And went to my advisor and I talked to her about it, and she put me on a waiting list for it, was able to get accepted into the class. And I learned kind of from other people that podcasting is sort of like journalism. I do interviews. I do kind of do interview people. I do a lot of reporting styles and everything. So a lot of my journalism degree has gone into the podcast more than I thought it would. So it ended up working out in the end, but podcasting actually was not considered going to be my full-time job of what I thought it was going to be. So it actually ended up all working out in the end, though.
It's funny though, because sometimes you do end up in a line of work or a career that you probably never even considered when you were in high school or in college. And certainly for me, even just doing a simple podcast like we have, I mean, I'm such an introvert, and if you ever gone back and listened to like the first couple of episodes, I'll be honest with you, they're rough. But I've gotten better. I think we both have gotten better, and it's helped me kind of come out of my shell a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of people say for when they hear me do you've done 300 interviews, do you not what's the secret behind that? And they're like, aren't you not nervous when you do it? The thing was if I had not gone into journalism and had not really learned about it, I think I would have been more nervous now, because when I went to Auburn, especially, I did a lot of assignments where I did have to reach out to officials to do interviews and set up cameras and all that. So I had that experience in there, and I was also I had pretty much been so open and honest with my life and honest about my story that it was just kind of free therapy for me to really just get in the microphone and just share what I was going through. So I never had that fear of nerves. I think my first interview, I was nervous because it was the first interview for the podcast. I had pretty much was a solo podcaster at that point. So I think I was a little nervous, but after that, it really got easy the quicker and easier it went, and it gets easier so much. Every time you do an interview, it just gets easier. And
it really does. I had to do one, a couple episodes ago. I had to do it by myself because Angela was ill. I did okay, but it reminds me of my psychology teacher in high school talking and just reading from the book. It was so there's no personality to it whatsoever. It was just I think it was a mess. But Angela said she listened to it and it was okay.
I'm like you. For me, if I went back and listened to my first few episodes, I think I would cringe because the format has changed so much, and how I formatted those episodes it was not well thought out. They were not well planned. They were very chaotic. I was just kind of doing it on the spot, and I kind of do now have more of a script. So I think I would be scared to kind of go back and listen to my earlier episodes just to see how badly it was executed at the time. But some people said, why don't you record it? And I went, I don't know if I want to keep it as it is, because it kind of shows progression and kind of shows kind of the involvedness of it. So they're just going to be out there, and that's kind of how I am with every episode. I don't really, after they're posted, I don't really listen to them or hear them again. I just kind of let it be as it is.
I think that's good, because you're obviously progressing. You're finding a way to, this is obviously like a dream thing for you, right? I mean, if you were pursuing the journalism route and you've turned it into something for yourself, this is something that's obviously helping you through everything that you're dealing with.
Right, it's got to be part therapy, I would imagine.
Yeah,
like it is for me.
That's what he was saying. He finds it as a therapy for him because he's talking, he's telling his story, facing the things that would have pretty much scared you before. Am I off base with that, or?
No, I actually have found it as therapy. The classmate episode is a really good example. Just being able to finally share my honest opinion about them was actually really therapeutic, and I had a lot of anger released from that. So there have been multiple episodes, especially my earlier ones, where I kind of do share my full story and really share a lot of the things I've been real quiet about, it gets a lot of anger out and has made me really evolve. And I put it in the past now is something that I don't really think about anymore prior to the podcast. So I 100% do find it very, very therapeutic.
Now, when you did your classmates episode, did you actually mention people by name?
Yeah, but I bleeped their names out and censored their names out the whole time.
Gotcha. Okay. Yep.
So I was like,
That
I don't
was
want no.
your little journey that you were on to.
But they knew who you were talking about.
Yeah.
Well, they haven't directly messaged me and said, was this directed at me? So I'm still waiting for those messages out. I just censored it because I didn't want a lawsuit.
Yeah, I get it.
I was like, I don't want no lawsuit. Don't send one my way.
I was just curious about that because I'd be terrified to mention anybody's name. You know?
But that was
Yeah, I've also been like doing I did like a whole thing on my school and like teachers I had, and I kind of got very truth telling on there. I think there was some things I said in that episode that were very much people would definitely know who I was talking about. So they've not reached out and said anything that yet. I'm still waiting on those messages, but yeah, some teachers I was really gave really good hints on who I was talking about.
So, with all of that being said, though, Noah, and you sharing this with us, how do you feel about your mental health today? Like, you said that you mentioned prior that sometimes it affects you on a daily basis, and sometimes you can kind of just move through. How do you feel overall now that you're doing some of these things?
I always have told people about my mental health. It's something that I know I will live with the rest of my life. It's something that's not going to be 100% cured. I know the depression's going to still come and go at times, and the anxiety will probably come and go. I still take the medicine I am on for it just to help mitigate those chances. But there's still times where I do, I think the last time I had depression was, I think, 5 or 6, 7 months ago. So even though I've really had all the success, it doesn't mean that it still doesn't pop up every now and then. My anxiety has really been mitigated and very low because I've been put on really good medication for it, so it really has calmed that. But I still have brief moments. So today I'm doing really good. I've been mentally and physically have been doing pretty well for the last few months. The podcast has really helped me kind of get my mind off thinking about the things that I probably would normally be thinking about if I wasn't doing the podcast. So in a way, the podcast really has kind of really saved me mentally and has really been doing good for me. But today I'm doing really good. Doing really good this year, and have been doing pretty good for a pretty good while now. So I'm hoping that it stays like that. If it doesn't, it'll probably be the longest I've been depression-free for a while. I can't remember the last time I've been this happy for this long of time.
That's awesome.
Great.
Now, do you find when I have my, when I consider mine pretty mild, when I'm going through when I'm stuck in my head and going through depression, I find it sometimes I frustrate myself more because I sit there and I think, what do I have to be depressed about? I have, I have great friends. I've got a great job. We've got a beautiful home. I've got an awesome husband, and I get frustrated because I can't figure out what the reason is.
That's a really good question, because there have been times where I'm like, why am I depressed? What's going on? Because everything seems it sometimes can just be from past stuff that I've dealt with, and it comes back and it affects me. Why? I don't know why it does that, but there have been times where I just am depressed for no reason, or my mind is for no reason. So I kind of, music to me has always been kind of a saving grace for me. Music has always been number one for me.
Good, yeah.
We do karaoke nights here on Friday nights. And there's been many times where my husband's come out here and I'm just doing karaoke by myself.
Listen, there's nothing wrong with that. Singing to yourself and singing and putting on a concert, imagining like Beyonce on the front stage. There's nothing wrong with that.
All right, I didn't say I was that gay, okay? So back it up a little bit. But no, I mean, I agree. I think music is, it definitely, for me and probably for you, it just, it can like put your mind at rest, and settle it.
Yeah, it really does. That and YouTube, I can get lost in those two things, and it really helps me mentally escape what I'm going through and thinking of. And I think without those two, I don't know where I would be today.
So, what advice, what would you say to people, that deal with mental health today? What would you say to them to help them out?
The big thing that I really want people to know is that it's okay to have mental health issues and go through with something like that, because you're not alone. All my life, I felt, especially in my middle school, high school years, thought that I was just the only one that had it. I felt like an outsider, like very much a minority, and I never wanted to open up and share what I was going through. I highly recommend for people to speak up and to talk to someone that they know, whether it's a friend, if it's just a coworker, parents, teacher, whatever, whoever you trust the most. Just go up to them and say what you're going through. Make sure that you kind of have a thing of like, don't judge me and don't be shocked about what I'm going to tell you, and just say everything that's on your mind. I can 100% guarantee that you would feel 100% relief to be able to get a lot of that emotion out and be able to really talk to someone, because you'll feel so much better. And it's better to have it out in the open, because if you keep it bottled up, it eats you alive and it'll tear you down, and it will lead to pretty severe consequences and bad repercussions and stuff that can't be reversed. So just find someone that you know are going through, and I can guarantee you that you'll feel a lot better, whether it's, again, a friend, your pet, a rock, it's just something that you can really just talk to and just be like, this is what I'm going through, and you'll feel a lot better. But to me, being vocal.
So remember that. Don't be surprised if you come in here some night for the episode and I'm speaking to the martini glass.
There you go. That's definitely some good advice, Noah.
Absolutely. So let's go back to the journalism. What advice do you have for people that want to get into journalism?
The biggest advice that I would give for that is, if you're at a college and your college does offer programs, whether it's a news station, a little newspaper, magazine, writing club, highly suggest that you sign up and try to get on there. I didn't do those because when I went to college and went off, I was kind of shy and was still kind of I was very introverted still at the time. I was a little bit more open, but clubs were just never my thing growing up, and I just never really seemed to fit in those. So I just was like, I don't want to, but I want people that are not in them that are also going in journalism to sign up for those. If you can get a job somewhere while you're in college too, that you can effectively be in and not have it overstress you and overwhelm you with work, and between work and school, highly suggest doing that as well. But just getting involved in other other programs at radio stations, internships, too, are a really good experience. I interned at a radio station, and I had a lot of good experience there, working there and being an intern there. And so any one of those things, just to kind of help you have a better understanding of how journalism works, I highly would suggest you do. And don't get discouraged if it takes you a while to find a job. It's not easy, but there will be a job and opportunity that will come along.
Awesome. That's great advice. Well, I guess we're out of time right now, and but I just want to say it was such a pleasure to have you on the show. We'll apologize for our startup issues. I'm gonna have to see what's going on in the back end of the computer, but what a pleasure. You had so much information to provide to people, and I can't wait to publish this and see the comments.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate y'all so much for having me on. And, I remember we were talking, if I heard that right, was your y'all's first guest y'all have done?
Through the pod match, yes.
I'll take that crown.
Yeah, absolutely. You were our guinea pig, so I apologize.
Listen, I'm probably the best one on Podmatch to do be the guinea pig, because I've had guests do that. They get mad if I'm like 5 minutes late to an interview. So I was probably the best one to do the guinea pig with. So I'll kindly take that crown as the first Podmatch guest for y'all's show. I'll gladly take that crown.
We appreciate it, and we thank you so much, and we wish you all the luck in the world.
Thank y'all so much. I really highly appreciate that, and I wish y'all the same.
Thank you.
Thank you, Noah.